I live down the street from the neighborhood elementary school, so when I noticed last Wednesday traffic spilling into my cul-de-sac of people and cars, I knew this could mean only one thing. The first day of the new school year had started and arrived. Is that cheering I hear? Hey, I'm Gina Sur. I'm one of the children's pastors on the Vista campus. Thanks for joining us today on the Daily Dose. Now, when I see kids and parents starting a new school year, it always brings a rush of memories to me, back to when my kids, who are now young adults, attended that very same elementary school. I remember how hard it was to transition from the lazy, carefree days of summer to the schedule of the school routine. I remember praying, God, please let them be in this teacher's class with this group of friends in this classroom. And it made me realize that back then, as a relatively new Christian, my prayers were more centered about how I defined their success, but whether it be good grades or lots of friends or excelling at the sport of their choice. Now, not that there's anything inherently wrong with those things, but as I grew spiritually, God very patiently and gently taught me through the verse 1 Samuel 16:7 that my prayers were missing something. In this verse, God's talking to Samuel, and he's revealing who will be anointed the next king of Israel. And it reads like this: "Don't judge by his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." So this verse explains that we as humans judge based on what we can see, physical appearance. So Saul, the first king of Israel, was tall and handsome, and Samuel assumed, well, the next king of Israel probably looked the same. But God told him otherwise, because God sees what we can't, which is the condition of a person's heart, and that's what matters most to God. And when that truth really sunk in for me, man, it was sobering and comforting at the same time, because sobering because he could see my prideful, foolish, selfish motives, and comforting because he could also see my hurts and fears and insecurities. And seeing my entire heart and all its imperfections, he still chooses to love me and desire a relationship with me and provide for me like a good father. So that gave me an entirely new perspective on my own kids' hearts, and it convicted me that my prayers were centered around success based on worldly standards and not God's standards. And it reminded me of a quote by Chris Brown that went something like, "MVP and GPA are not as important as GOD in our kids' lives." And I know that's a really hard concept to embrace, especially when the world around us puts so much emphasis on physical appearance and celebrates success based on material possessions or position or achievements. But honestly, this verse, it just brought relief to me, relief from the unrealistic expectations that I'd put on myself as a parent and my kids. Because not everyone is gifted as best looking or valedictorian or athlete of the year. But with the help of the Holy Spirit, everyone can choose to be loving and a reflection of Jesus to others around them. And that is an A+ in God's eyes. So instead of only praying for worldly success for my kids, I began to pray for their hearts. I prayed that God would make them soft and humble and kind and grateful. I prayed that my kids would have compassion for the outcast kid at school, or that they would learn patience from the struggling classmate or teammate, or that they would be gracious in winning and in losing, and that I as a parent would see so-called failures as opportunities to teach them and develop their godly character. So as we start a new school year, whether or not you have kids in school, can I encourage you to be praying in new ways for the hearts over which you have influence? That not only to be asking for God's favor on their earthly endeavors, but also to be changing their hearts in ways that may not be seen or measured physically, but that can be felt and used to influence others for Jesus. And that way, we can celebrate in God's eyes, in their eyes, and in yours. See you next time.